When a wild animal stops being afraid of you, that's not trust. That's actually the first sign that something's gone wrong, that the natural order, the one that kept both of you in your lanes, has quietly broken down. And the unsettling part? You probably didn't even notice it happening. Think about it. You've seen this, maybe right in your own backyard. A bird on the fence post. You step outside. It doesn't flinch. You get a little closer. Still nothing. You're practically within arm's reach now, and it just sits there. Look at you. Calm, unbothered. And something in you lights up, right? You feel chosen. Like you somehow crossed that invisible line between the human world and the wild one. Like the animal saw you, really saw you, and decided you were okay. But here's the thing. That line didn't come down because the bird finally trusted you. It came down because something ancient, something that's been running in the bird's nervous system for 60 million years of evolution, quietly switched off. Not because you're special, but because the world that bird was built for doesn't really exist anymore. Now, you've been watching the bird this whole time, but here's what nobody tells you. The bird was watching you first. Long before it ever landed near you, it had already figured you out. It knows what time you open the back door. It knows which window you show up in first every morning. It can tell the difference between the sound your shoes make on the patio when you're just walking and the sound they make when you're carrying something worth waiting for. You thought you were the one observing. You weren't. You were the subject. Here's the humanized version. This isn't poetry. This is actual science, behavioral ecology, and what researchers have found studying urban bird populations should genuinely change how you see that quiet little thing sitting on your fence. Urban birds, sparrows, robins, corvids, pigeons, are showing something scientists now call compressed habituation. And here's what that means in plain terms. The process of learning not to fear a predator that used to take generations, passed down slowly, shaped by survival over time. Now, it's happening within a single bird's lifetime, sometimes within a single season. The bird isn't brave, it's recalibrating. And this is where it gets really interesting. There's a term researchers use, ecological naivety. Sounds almost gentle, right? It isn't. Ecological naivety is what happens when an animal loses its fear response. Not because the danger is gone, but because the world has changed so fast that the animal's threat detection system just can't keep up anymore. The instinct is still there, buried deep, still technically working. But the signals it was built to catch, the rustle of a predator moving through tall grass, the shadow of a hawk crossing an open sky, those signals are getting drowned out, replaced by car engines, leaf blowers, the smell of concrete where soil used to be. The city isn't just changing where birds live. It's changing how their brains actually work. Studies comparing the same species, urban birds versus rural birds, found real, measurable differences. Stress hormone levels, territorial behavior, and most critically, fear response thresholds. City birds don't just act less afraid. Physiologically, they are less afraid. The whole architecture of anxiety that kept their ancestors alive, it's being quietly dismantled, one generation at a time, by the sheer relentless noise of the world we built around them. But it doesn't stop there, because the loss of fear isn't random, it's strategic. So why this bird? Why your yard? Why are you? Here's the cold little calculation happening inside that small skull. A bird's entire life is a survival equation. Every second spent on the ground foraging is a second spent exposed. Every calorie burned flying away is a calorie that has to be replaced. In the wild, spotting a large primate, which, by the way, is exactly what you are to a bird, triggers an automatic response. Flee first. Ask questions, never. That's the factory setting. But the bird in your yard has done something kind of remarkable. It ran the numbers, and it came to a different conclusion. It figured out that the actual likelihood of you being a real threat is lower, measurably, observably lower than the benefit of staying close to your feeder, your garden, your garbage cans, your completely predictable human routine. It isn't being friendly, it's being rational. You're not a friend to this bird. You're a resource node in its survival network. And it is calculated, honestly, with a kind of precision that would embarrass most of us, that tolerating your presence is worth the risk. Here's the humanized version. Think about what that actually means for a second. A creature with a brain the size of a walnut has done a cost-benefit analysis on you. It decided you're more valuable alive and present than you are frightening. It has, in every real sense, domesticated itself, not to you specifically, but to the idea of you. The category of human, which was once just danger, has been quietly reclassified, and you helped make that happen. This is the part people don't see coming. Every time you put out seeds, you weren't just feeding a bird. You were participating in an experiment with no control group, no ethical review board. You introduced a new variable into a local ecosystem. You became, without knowing it, a selective pressure. The birds that tolerated you survived better. I went into winter healthier, bred stronger, and they passed something on, not just genes, but behavior. Their offspring watched them walk up to humans and not die. And they learned you didn't tame a bird. You nudged an entire local population one small degree away from wildness. Now multiply that. Every backyard feeder, every suburb, every city on Earth. And suddenly you start to see the shape of something much bigger. A quiet continent-wide experiment in unwilding, carried out by people who genuinely just thought they were being kind. But here's the perspective shift that changes everything. Maybe the bird isn't losing something. Maybe it's just the only one being honest about what's already gone. What does wild even mean for a bird born in a city? The wilderness it was supposedly built for has been replaced by rooftops and roads. The migration routes its ancestors followed are cut through by glass skyscrapers, ones that reflect the sky so perfectly that birds fly into them by the thousands every year. The food it was supposed to find, insects, seeds, berries in season, is either gone, poisoned, or buried under pavement. From inside those small, calculating eyes, you're not the intruder. You're the only predictable thing left in a landscape that no longer makes sense. Your routine is the most reliable ecological feature in its entire world. Your back door opening every morning at 7 is more dependable than any tree it might have nested in, more consistent than any stream it might have drunk from. You became a feature of its natural habitat without meaning to, because you are the habitat now. The bird that won't fly away isn't confused. It isn't broken. It looked at the world as it actually is, not as it was 1,000 years ago, not as we wish it still were, and it made the only rational decision it could. It stayed. And then, one day, it doesn't. You walk outside and the fence post is empty. That specific bird, the one with the slightly bent tail feather, the one that always tilted its head at you, is just gone, and you feel it. That small, strange loss, the kind that's hard to explain because it was never really yours to begin with. But if you're paying attention in that moment, here's what you take with you. That bird didn't show you magic. It showed you evidence. It was a signal, sitting right there in plain sight, of a planet in the middle of something that can't be undone. A living data point in a shift so gradual that most people will go their whole lives without noticing it, except for these quiet, strange moments when an animal refuses to run, when the boundary blurs, when a creature looks you in the eye and you feel something you can't quite name and realize it knows you better than you know it. You didn't tame a bird. You watched a species rewrite itself in real time. You watched evolution make a decision, and the decision it made was you. The question isn't what the bird lost by staying. The question is what it figured out about this world and about you that you still haven't fully understood about yourself. So I want to ask you something. And I actually want you to think about it before you answer. When an animal stops being afraid of you, when something wild looks at you not with terror but with calculation, what does that say about the kind of presence you are in the world? Not the presence you intend to be, the one you actually are. Drop your answer in the comments, because honestly, I have a feeling yours is going to be different from everyone else's.